Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race C Race and Strategy Guide. We're off to Brazil and we're off to Autodromo de Interlagos for a race in a limited selection of Group 1 cars, which I shall touch on in very short order. But first up, the settings for this one are 14 laps to get round, tyre wear at ×5, fuel just at ×1. Both the racing soft and the racing medium tyres are available, and both of them are mandatory to be ran in this race. BOP is on, as the mid-speed BOP as well. Damage is light, it's a formation start, and slipstream is real. So this is actually an original combination for Daily Race C in terms of both Gran Turismo 7 and Gran Turismo Sport, although it was ran as an FIA race maybe a couple of years ago in GT Sport. But as I said, we have a limited selection of the Group 1 cars to run for this race, and you'll see some footage of the 4 of them as I kind of discuss this little implementation from PD. Basically, it is the modern day LMP1 cars. It's the Nissan GTR, the Toyota TS050, the Audi R18 and the Porsche 919. And I like this little move from PD. I've been kind of shouting out for this, kind of limiting certain cars from a category into a race just to try and, you know, make people use different cars. For example, you know, I've always said I'd love to see like a Group 4 race where it's McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche and Lamborghini maybe being the 4 cars that are available. So I do like this move from PD. Unfortunately, in this case, it just doesn't work because the sort of disparity between the cars' performance is so big that it's just going to become a one make, and I'm pretty sure you know what car that's going to be. It's going to be the Porsche 919 Hybrid, and it's just because it's hybrid requires zero management in this race whatsoever. When we used it in Fuji, you did have to do a little bit of management to keep it alive. In this race, just the nature of the track means that hybrid has absolutely no trouble whatsoever, requires no management from the driver in the slightest, certainly from my findings. All the other 3 cars, the hybrids, die far too quickly. The second best choice is the Toyota TS050. It's not too bad, but it's still probably a good second off the pace of the Porsche. And this is a shame because the Porsche and the Audi and the Toyota were actually fairly well BOP'd, and they had sort of different driving characteristics in GT Sport, where I think had we did this race in GT Sport, all 3 of the cars would be viable. But as it is in GT7, just with the disparity in the hybrid, it's definitely something that needs to get sorted. The Porsche 919 is really the only choice for this race. So with that discussed, let's move on to the strategy. And it's fairly simple when it comes to strategy these days. In the old tyre model, we would basically run the soft tyres until our lap times were no quicker than a fresh set of medium tyres. With the new tyre model, you basically run your soft tyres until you run out of tread, which will be indicated on the telemetry in the bottom the bottom left hand corner. And in our case, we have managed to get to lap number 8 here, and it is that front left tyre that is providing all the trouble. Although the front right tyre is not in particularly great shape either. But yeah, you can see from the telemetry there, we are not going to make another lap around without the car just going off the cliff. And if we tried to do another lap, we would probably lose about 8 or 9 seconds as the tyres just die completely. So coming into the pit lane here, and I will discuss that pit lane entry in detail in just a wee moment, because there is a couple of things I do need to point out to you that may well save you a 3-second penalty. But as we wait on the car coming into the pits here, it's a fairly lengthy little sequence as we wait on the car getting into the box. Finally we get there, going to change our soft tyres onto the medium tyres. It only takes about 4.1 seconds stationary time, and we are back on our way. Now there's a bit of a strange thing that happens here in custom race mode anyway, whereas the AI car cannot get around that corner without hitting it. Whether that'll be the case in sport mode, I have no idea. And there's also another little bit of a strange thing in Gran Turismo where depending on what compound of tyres you are on, as you exit the pits, you will exit a little bit quicker. So soft tyres will exit there a little bit quicker than medium tyres. But it's all said and done though, you'll lose about 22 seconds in the pit lane, and fuel, as I said earlier, is no issue whatsoever. So coming into the pit lane, I do want to point this out now. You've got this kind of, you are driving the car through this twisty part of the pit lane. If you go all 4 wheels out of that path, as you shall see here, you will pick up a 3-second penalty. So I never knew that until I did the guide here. I was actually trying to regen my battery as you enter the pits. I thought I'll just take that opportunity to do that. Kind of strayed out of the actual path of all 4 wheels and picked up a 3-second penalty. From what I can see, as long as you keep 2 wheels, or you don't go all 4 wheels over that white line, or out with the sort of parameters of the path, you should be fine for your pit stop and not pick up that penalty. I think you'll see a few people maybe do that over the course of the week. So coming to the end of our stint on the medium tyres here, not much to discuss. They're around about 1 second off the pace of the soft tyres, and of course you're going to have no issues with tyre life on the mediums. 18 minutes 48.3 is the finishing time. Definitely scope to add an extra lap in there, PD. I would like to really see them try to get these races over the 20-minute mark on a far more regular basis. So moving on to the alternative strategy, starting on the medium tyres and finishing on the soft tyres. Now the idea for me here is there's no point just doing the exact reverse of what you've done on the soft medium strategy, so we have actually pitted on lap 5 and we're going to try and do an additional lap on the soft tyres when we've got a little bit of that fuel burned off. Now with the fuel only being at times 1, it is literally maybe about 7 or 8 kilograms in weight, but that could be all that we need to get the car to the end of the 9th lap with a little bit of a lighter car. Now our kind of run here on the soft tyres was pretty much compromised, certainly over at least 3 to 4 of the laps, by AI cars who had sort of ended up behind after our pit stop. So the lap times are a little bit all over the place. We did our best to kind of do a little bit of tyre management, nothing too extreme to be perfectly honest with you. It's one of these cars that it's actually kind of hard to save tyres because it's all about throwing it in with the maximum amount of vigour into the corners as you possibly can, and demanding a whole lot from those front tyres, which are obviously the tyres, as you can see from the telemetry, that are limited in this one. However, it does seem, with the car being a little bit lighter and just taking a little bit of care of those front tyres through some of the corners, that you can extend the second stint or the soft stint to 9 laps if you sort of do the medium soft strategy. So coming up to the start finishing line here, you can see we still have enough tread to not have to worry too much about what the car is doing at this point. So let's do a quick recap on the strategies. We started on the soft medium strategy. Now that I would only suggest starting on the soft tyres if you're maybe in the top 3 positions, because of the dirty air of Group 1. It's very difficult to overtake. If you start any further back than P3 or P4, you're probably going to be starting behind a medium runner, probably compromise your pace quite a lot, very hard to overtake. And yet this race is, as always with any strategy, this is all about getting the most out of the softer compound of tyres. So I'd only be doing the soft medium strategy if I was starting in the top 3 or 4 positions. We managed to get to lap 8 before our tyres ran out of tread. For some drivers I think it might be a lap less than that. Just be careful. Keep an eye on that tread. Don't risk that extra lap if you think you're going to run out of it, because you will lose masses of time. The strategy you're going to see far more people doing, and it might be the whole grid by the end of the week, is going to be the medium soft run. We managed 9 laps on the soft tyres. We were able to do an extra lap once the car was a little bit lighter and we looked after the tyres. Again, I think for a lot of drivers you'll maybe be looking at 8 laps maximum, maybe even 7 laps if you're particularly bad on the tyres. Any driver that's able to go to sort of pit on lap 5 and do the 9 laps on the soft tyres obviously is going to have a massive advantage in terms of undercut. And the key, as always, to any good strategy is being able to find a gap in the track and being able to exploit the softer tyre as much as possible and put in representative lap times. But I think that's pretty much it in terms of strategy. Hopefully it's been useful in some way, shape or form to get you prepared for this race. I'm going to have a little bit of a rant now, not so much a rant, a moan, as I did in the strategy guide last week, just kind of basically give you a little bit of an opinion of mine, because I do think this race sort of demonstrates PD's kind of, it shows like they're not quite on the same playing field, the same thinking level as, you know, the sport mode player base, because I know that Group 1 is not popular. This race will be dead by Wednesday. I'm going to assure you, you know, the settings are pretty good for this one, so they actually have given us some good settings. They've given us a good track. They've given us the wrong category. And I get, and I like the idea that they've tried to give us, you know, a limited car selection, but again, as soon as I seen that limited car selection, I'm like, well, the only car that anybody's going to drive is Porsche, isn't it? Because all the other cars are terrible on the hybrid. So it just shows a basic lack of understanding of even their own game, which is hugely frustrating, massively frustrating. You know, followed on from last week where they put us in probably the most popular car category, but they put us at one of the most unpopular tracks and then gave us settings that made it even less appealing by making it a no-stopper and a fuel saver. I don't mind fuel saving, but I know a lot of people don't like fuel saving, so there's a clear disconnect from whoever is coming up with these daily race seat combinations, and as harsh as it is to say, there's a clear lack of knowledge of their own game and whoever's coming up with these daily race C combination, and it's hurting the game. It's definitely hurting the game. The player base, the number of players playing these daily race Cs is diminishing, and yeah, they're going to have to turn it around fairly quickly because, you know, this can't go on forever. You know, you can't keep making these poor decisions and expecting the player base to keep coming back. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. Let's finish the video off with a little bit of a lap guide. We're coming down towards turn 1 at Interlagos in the Porsche 919 hybrid. We're looking for the 50-metre board as your reference. I actually maybe brake just before it because getting the car into the apex or the first part of the Senna S is absolutely vital. We go down into second gear here. Normally I only actually use third gear. Get the line right so you can actually just hammer the throttle through the second part of the Senna S. The car should stick and you can then run full throttle all the way down to turn 4. So for turn 4 you're looking for the path on the right hand side. That's a good reference point for your braking into this corner. Down into 4th gear, you can carry a lot of speed through this corner. Do try and clip the curb on the inside, on the throttle nice and early. You have to kind of flirt with danger on the exit with that curb, but it is quite important for your lap time to carry as much speed through that corner as you can. 50-metre board has come into this kind of very fast double apex right-hander. Lots of fun, just down into 5th gear. A little bit of a dab of the brake. Keep it tight, I find, is the best way for your lap time. And picking a sort of braking point for this corner is very difficult. I tend to feel that I almost just kind of judge it rather than use a kind of set braking marker. Get the car down into 3rd gear. I actually got the line very long there, so we lost a couple of attempts there, probably just from running a little bit wide. 3rd gear through the 2nd hairpin, using the curb on the inside, just the start of the curb. It's just out of shot there as your braking reference. I go down into 2nd gear because this hairpin is a little bit tighter. Be careful of the crest as you accelerate over the bump. Full throttle down through this corner, no surprise whatsoever, and you're looking for the 50-metre board as your reference. I actually brake just a little bit before it. Very important to get the car into the apex here, 3rd gear, because you then get on the throttle nice and early to carry that speed all the way up the hill to the start finish line. No issues with the hybrid on the Porsche 919 through Interlagos here, so no management required whatsoever, unlike Fuji, so that should please people a little bit more. But yeah, I'm going to end the guide there. Do join me for a live stream of this one if you can at some point. We'll probably try and go on a couple of times, but at least with a little bit of strategy in there, it just makes it a much more appealing race to me. We can kind of we can get out of trouble, we can try and make something work. Unfortunately, it will just be the Porsche you'll see me in because no other car is really competitive. But yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and only if you think the video deserves it. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.